The Footy's on Triple M.
It's time.
Here we go.
Time for the Saturday run.
Get around him.
Ahead of your Triple M footy triple header.
Get your facts right.
Lighten up, take your tie off.
Hard yakka for a new breed of legends.
For Ream Hot Water and McDonald's.
Triple M rocks footy.
Oh, she's a different style of Saturday Rub, this one, because we've absolutely appropriately made way for the women's final. And then, of course, the Kangaroos take on Sydney at the Triple SCG.
That'd be good.
So we are just going to do something that the family can latch their hands on via podcast. But very nice to see the full team assembled. Firstly, Bernard in Adelaide in the studios. Welcome to you.
Thanks, Jim. Good to be with you, even though down the line. I feel like we're never in the same studio, Bill. Either you're somewhere or I'm somewhere. But I notice you've changed your shirt at least.
I haven't been introduced yet.
Oh, Bill, you don't need introduction.
Oh, g'day, Boone. Great to be with you. And it's great to be in the studio. You're right, to see these boys. I haven't seen old Fluffy Duck for a while. Yeah. Good to see you.
G'day, Bill.
And old podcast Damo. I haven't seen him for a while. Good to see you.
Good to see you not in a green shirt too, Bill.
Yeah, I changed that. I had to throw it out. My beautiful polo shirt, which is worth plenty of money.
It isn't.
And entitled one over here. I'm sick of him. So good to be with everyone. How are you, Duck?
I'm good. Very
From
good.
the waist up?
Good, I tell you what. Looking forward to this show.
Of course you are.
What do you brought? Hang on.
Yeah, what do you brought, Duck?
I want to know what you brought to the show.
Well,
Here we go.
No, that's the other show you do.
Okay.
What have you actually brought, Duck?
Well, Bill, I've been in here working already. So this is
So
just
what do you want to start
This
with?
is a tack on.
When we introduce Damo, what are we
Well,
going to...
Damo's been doing a lot of investigating. so I'm looking forward
Actually, you have, Bill.
I'm looking forward to that. And I love Booney's segment, the Nuff-Nuff.
Yes.
That's coming up to
And
So
I-
Bernie does
and I'm
that,
the-
Damo
and
does
I'm the
that.
gel that holds that together.
Hello, Damien.
Hello, William.
Great to be with you.
I'll tell you what happened to us, Bernard. I don't know whether you experience any of this on the magnificent rush hour you do in Adelaide with Bluey and Jars.
Yes.
But the rush hour we do here in Melbourne, we had the very, very funny Ross Noble on as part of the show earlier this week.
Strange.
Good.
We were talking about the Isle of Man TT races because he's mad on his motorbikes, Ross.
Yeah.
And halfway through it, Bill goes, "Is that Stonehenge?" Because that's shit. Stonehenge. Why would you want to? Ross Noble looked at me after about 5 minutes of trying to work it out. Ross Noble looked at me and he goes, "Is it like this every day?" I said, "Yes, it is." He goes, "It's like talking to someone in an old person's home." And Bern, that is the best description of working with Bill I've ever heard.
He sounded actually concerned about
Has
Bill's
anyone
welfare.
here been to Stonehenge?
No.
I would have no interest in going.
No.
No.
Yes, I have.
And what did you think? Be
Well,
honest.
I wasn't expecting the Colosseum like clearly you were.
Oh, no,
I knew what it
expecting
was.
Something, Jim, not a couple of rocks that some convict built or something. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. That and the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, it was underwhelming too. I'll give you that. That was underwhelming.
Bloody oath, you've got to walk through everywhere past all these
Line-ups.
great statues of nude blokes with their big doodles and balls hanging out.
What was the name of the museum, Bill? Starts with
the
L.
Louvre. The Louvre. So you go down there, don't you, Jim? You got to walk, because they hide the Mona Lisa right out the back.
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, you walk in there,
And that's it.
and it's that big. The painting is as big as my diary, isn't it? It is.
Yes, I know, I've seen it.
Mate,
Radio.
This is what we're talking about.
What about
Hose,
the Eiffel
again.
Tower? Not as big as I thought either.
well, at least it's okay. It's there. It's a structure.
What else can you put out? Ayers Rock? How are we going with Ayers Rock?
Oh, I love it. It's rock.
Do you ever climb it?
No.
Or Uluru, as we're now calling it.
Correct. I was about to retract myself
Hey,
there.
Bernie, have you been to... Bernie, he's not cultured at all. Just ask him. Have you been to Stonehenge, Bern?
Yeah, never heard of it. Don't even know where it is.
Mate, he only stays in Adelaide, occasionally gets out for the rub to come over here. Have you travelled, Bernie? Have you been out of Adelaide?
Yeah, I went back to York Peninsula to visit the parents.
Oh. Have you been out of Australia?
No, I did. I went through Europe backpacking, Bill, back in about 2009
What
with
did you
a
see?
couple of teammates. Went to the Colosseum.
Oh, yes.
Bill.
Magnificent, by the way.
Yeah,
That
great.
is
Stacks
worth
up.
seeing.
That stacks up.
Colosseum.
That is big. That's about all I saw.
Yeah, I
I saw a
know.
lot of bars.
Well, so what happened, Purple, because you weren't able to catch up with it, is Ross then, and Hose was in the studio when it, so she knows what I'm talking about. Ross then went, Oh, Stonehenge. So now I'm talking to someone that knows what Stonehenge is about. So we started going down the mythical part of Stonehenge and the druids. And all that. Yeah. And at that stage, Bill's looking like a goldfish. I don't know what any of that means. I just drove past Stonehenge with Dwayne Russell.
Me and Dwayne drove out there one day, parked the car, and honestly, we get out and go, oh, no. Surely.
And Dwayne's real name's not Dwayne.
Well, Shane. Shane and I drove out there. Oh, Shane. He doesn't like being called Shane. But we drove out there, and honestly, you stand there and go, well, that's shit. There's no other word. It's underwhelming. Underwhelming it was.
And your partner in the show over there, Bernard Bluey, he's just having some time off to go and play golf. Is that right?
Well, I don't know how this works. How do you just take time off?
Oh, I know. I've got a bloke sitting next to me that just takes time off whenever he wants, Bernie.
That's a very good point because you are his mentor, Jim. So maybe it's starting to make sense.
Well,
but yeah, he's got a golf trip into another golf trip, I think.
That's it. So how much time is he spending away?
I think he's going Friday and then he's having all next week off somehow.
Good.
I don't know how that
4 of
works.
the AFL season, Bird. You'll be right.
That's not quite
Yeah,
enough
okay.
time off for my
Who
life.
takes over? Carl Ferguson?
Cullen?
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 Or Cullen or whatever he's stupid. What about you work with him? Like a great cricketer, but he starts telling a story, right? And then you go, right, we're on radio, mate, we cut this a bit short. After 4 minutes, you go, what's the point there, Fergie? Honestly.
His confidence is all over. It's shot at the moment, Bill, because you're making all the promos and everything over here about whacking him, and now he doesn't know whether he can come back.
But he just got to shorten him up.
He's talking for 4 minutes. Bill's trying to work out when he can get Stonehenge in. He's like, shut up for a minute. I want to talk about Stonehenge.
Shut up.
What's happened over there, please? Obviously, the showdown on the weekend. So the bragging rights are gone with Adelaide. That would have dominated the talk.
Yeah, no, it was massive over here. Obviously, the way it finished too. It was a good game actually, even up until the last kick or previous to that. It was hardly contested. It was big tackles, some big hits. There was some spot fires off the ball, and just what a showdown, what you want from a showdown. So, bragging rights well and truly to Adelaide. And the big Texan, he's back this week. So he came on our show last night and he announced that he's back. And I said, well, selection hasn't happened yet. And he goes, oh, if they don't pick me. And he went hard at Nixie if he didn't pick him.
So, Damo, just quickly, with both the showdown and the derby, do you agree with the parochialism in both states that bearing them on a Sunday is inappropriate?
I do. Yeah, I do. Look, there was a couple
I mean,
of...
the showdown was obviously Friday night last week. But
Yeah, I feel it deserves a better stage. And look, it finally got a Friday night, but it was part of a double header Friday night. So I don't get the scheduling, and I think it should be celebrated in a way that it's not. And I've been long believing of that, and I think the last game that Jordan Dawson helped elevate back into the stratosphere is testament to that.
It's the number one rivalry, isn't it, Duck? Port Adelaide of all.
Yeah, well, it doesn't
Carlton,
matter.
Collingwood no more, and all that.
Doesn't
Geelong
matter where
and-
they are on the ladder.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that. Adelaide not a good side at the minute. Port expected to be at the pointy end, and yet they produce a game like that. And they seem to do it every year. And the fact that it's so close. What is it? What are Adelaide one ahead now in the history?
which the derby isn't West Coast
Port
of
Adelaide
Miles.
are.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's the number one rivalry, without doubt.
Yeah,
Although,
I would.
Who would you say?
But I still don't think.
I agree, but the Perth mobs hate each other too.
Yes, but it's not the same as Adelaide.
I still don't think that just because of that, though, you put it primed. I don't mind the double header on a Friday night as long as the times are, not the exact same time.
There's an hour difference.
I thought it actually worked, to be honest with you. Maybe an hour and a half, maybe a little bit longer different, but I thought it worked. It deserved the time slot. It got it, and it lived up to it.
All right, Ash Chua, did I see? I'm looking at Will now, our producer. Did I see him having selfies with fans?
Yeah.
Well, so where's he at now?
Just got photographic evidence of that.
So
actually,
what,
sent through.
Damo, where's he at? Because this is a young man who came into the fold close to 20 years ago as a humble, quiet, and as the great Winston Churchill once said about a retiring parliamentarian in England, a humble man with much about which to be humble. So Ash had a lot to be humble about when he came and joined us. How has that turned into someone having selfies with fans on the street?
And he's battling, Jim, with what's going on at Triple M at the moment. We've introduced a succession plan to the whole stats department. It's industry leading, as we know, and Ash has been the industry leader.
Yes.
And he still is. There's still no peer to what's going on with Ash's work and maybe until recently. But Ethan Meldrum is that man who is now going to see. And that, look, Ash is part of the succession plan. Yeah, Ethan. Ash is part of the succession
Don't
plan.
look at me, Fat.
Well, Bill, this
Not
is
our man, Ethan.
Ethan, who
Yes,
does great
that same
work with
one.
us.
This is part of what we're about to talk about,
Wouldn't
Bill,
have
because
thought Ash has got
some
a lot
succession plans work well, like Paul Roos into John Longmire,
Yes.
Paul Roos into Simon Goodwin.
Yes.
Others don't work so well. Mick Moldhouse into Nathan Buckley,
Yes.
Alistair Clarkson into Sam Mitchell. They just take off. So I don't know where we're at with ours at the moment. And I just want to retrace some steps, though, Jim, before I get you to tell us where we're at. So, look, Ethan's been going really well, but his debut was underwhelming. This is back to early last year, and he's just easing his way, finding his way.
Anyone hasn't actually touched it yet, Heath, on this ground, playing in this game?
Finn Maginnis, no disposal so far.
Just following up there, is Finn Maginnis a relative to Finn McGuinness?
Yeah, Finn McGuinness. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I just thought you were being creative there.
Maginnis.
Again, he's got to the point where he's taking Ash on, but again, there were early problems, Jim, in this succession plan, because not only did Bill not know his name, others, as you're about to hear, also on his own station didn't know the succession plan was underway with Ethan.
We've also got Heath Meldrum here.
What's he at, please? Ash, I mean...
And you and Meldrum, of course, with the Red Z lending stats. Ewan, what have you got for us tonight?
That's Ethan Meldrum beats.
Fritz, Ash hasn't been great tonight. Ewan, Ethan.
Also tells around the grounds, Rabs, get back to the MCG. So Ethan.
That's Ethan. Opportunity to go back in the middle. Not sure of his surname, but his name's Ethan.
So even Rab's got a mention there, Jim. Now, what this was doing, even though Ash signed off on this succession plan, Bill, he's normally unflappable and Mr. Nice Guy, and he's my favourite person on Triple M and always will be, but he started getting prickly.
He told me that he feels he's above where you're at the moment.
Is that right?
He's only been there a short while. That's what he told me. He just said, I feel like Ash is going in the old way.
Well, then in that case, stay close to your enemies. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Ash is now. Look at the body language.
He got his back up there.
He's got the arms folded. He's
Alistair Clarkson, Sam Mitchell
Right.
style sort of
Look at
succession
that.
plan.
He's going very well, Ethan. He's doing a great job.
Now, Jim, I heard you had to get involved with management about this stage of proceedings because you head up the channel, the Triple M cricket coverage, as you do the footy coverage, and you had the captain's call on this, and you said, I want Ash for the first test. And actually wanting for the all test, provided he goes well in the first test.
The late, great Rodney William Marsh used to say when he broke a finger or whatever, and Kevin Wright, or whoever the next keeper was lurking underneath.
Steve
Roger
Rickson.
Woolley.
Yeah, Steve Rickson. He would tape the fingers up and play on. He said, never give a sucker an even break.
Right.
So Ash,
well, you gave him the gloves for the first test,
Yes.
but a problem emerged with his cricket issues.
And what was the run rate for Australia's innings in that first innings? It was up around 4-5, wasn't it? It was pretty high, I think.
Yes.
So, Jim, you got involved again with management, and Ash might have. The story that went around was Ash had a longer range diary entry. I've got a boys' weekend for the second test. Now, unfortunately for Ash, that extended to the second, third, fourth, and fifth
all the way
test.
through the series.
Yeah, and Ethan just took over from this point. And then we get to round one of the AFL season again, and Ethan's doing the season opening game, the famous Grand Final rematch. So, look, you can take up these issues, can't you, Duck? And you would, I reckon, resolve some issues in the past, maybe in a boxing ring or outside a pub, and others might just do it over a beer. Nathan Brown would do it over an arm wrestle with Howie.
Yeah.
Ash decided he needs to get Ethan out to sort it out once and for all.
I'm sensing Drew's going to have some sort of showdown, whether they UFC style get in the boxing ring or even maybe just an arm wrestle. Drew.
Table tennis. We'll take it out on the table tennis table. That's the best
Really
sport.
intimidating
Good at
on
that
the
sport.
table tennis.
Yeah, watch out for my backhand top spin.
Table tennis, Bill.
Watch out for my backhand.
He wouldn't see over the table.
No,
Little Ash.
and again, poor old Ash, he's still rattled because he then offered this up early in 2022.
Oh, no.
How's he gone on the stat sheet today so far, the octathlete?
Yep, he's had 7 disposals and for Triple M Red Z. Is that who are we talking about?
Stop.
I just zoned out. I need to take myself off, guys. He hasn't had a stat. See you later.
He hasn't touched it. So, Jim, I don't know where this succession. It's now 2 years in the offing, and I think we're further behind succeeding Ash than we've actually destroyed Ash in the process.
Well, he's gone from a highly operational stats man to a man who's rudderless.
No, and if you're a budding stats person out there, I'd be ringing Triple M. I reckon there's a job, because I don't know about number 2.
You get to a level where if you just start zoning out, you're starting to take liberties you just shouldn't be taking.
What about his boy,
really?
Duck? Duck,
Hang on, I just zoned out.
What about his boys' weekend, Duck? Imagine that, Ash, and the boys' weekend.
Yeah, you know, they make
cruisers. There's cruisers over there in the sink. Just have one of them, and we'll have some fairy bread later.
it's that bigger group. They meet in the local telephone box.
Duck's been working on that one for a while.
What was his gag last week?
I like it. Well, I must admit though, with the cricket, I got to the second test and I was operating remotely from the stats department at that point. So I had you and our big boss in my ear saying, right, well, you're going to be with Cal Ferguson, but he's in Adelaide and you're here, and someone else, I think it was Brad Haddon's in Sydney, so it was a bit like that. Anyway, we got halfway through the first stint I did, and he said, well, Ethan's got a stat for Anaconda or something. I said, who? He goes, Ethan. I said, who the Ethan? He goes, the bloke who's been doing the digital on the Rush Hour now for 2.5 years. I went, oh, that's Ethan. Sorry, I didn't realise it was the same Ethan.
Oh, yeah.
Because there must be some Sydney stats bloke called Ethan who I'd never heard of.
And you know his surname? Meldrum.
No, thank you, Bill. Well, you didn't say Ethan Meldrum, I would have known.
No, you would not.
He just dropped an Anaconda Ethan on me.
Is he related to Molly?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't have known the two. I don't think so.
No, he's quality Heath, and I would be worried if I'm Ash. That's how we wind that up.
Yeah, he's prickly, Ash.
Yeah, well, he is because he's worried. That's right. If he had nothing to worry about, he wouldn't be prickly, but he knows that Heath's bringing quality to the table, and I think Ash is starting to look behind him a bit, Bernard.
Well, we went for a beer after we did the game last Saturday, and we went across the road to the corner pub, and I went there with Barry Denner and Ash.
Yes, the people's call it. Yeah.
And we went in and we got one, and it was just a little friendly hello to me. And where's Ash? That's what it was called. Where's Ash? And I'm like, where's
friendly
Ash?
hello to you.
Ash who?
Yeah,
and the tube man. I'm like, oh shit, Ash is actually a big deal around here. And then Baz came in, they're asking him, and then eventually they said, because I was sitting near the toilet, smart from them, they go, well, eventually he's going to have to come for a piss at some stage. And they got him. That was that selfie you saw just then.
There'll be a couple of his bloody Point Cook mates.
Yeah.
He would have placed them. I said, when I get there, make sure you ask me for a selfie.
I saw some worrying signs about a year ago with Ash when he sat down and he had two phones in front of him.
Two phones?
Two phones.
What does that normally mean to you, Doug? Given you once had two phones.
It can only be bad things happening. You're doing something naughty with someone or something.
This coming.
How many do you have, Doug?
I've only ever had the one phone, Bill, but maybe that was where I went wrong. But he seriously,
Marbio.
he rolls with the two phones.
Hutchie had three once, Bill.
Yeah, well, it is
and an iPad.
Concerning.
This is coming from a man who, even though we're only staying in a hotel for 2.5 hours, asked for two cards. No, two. One card or two. One card or two, Mr. Kerry. Two.
For the electricity. For the aircon. You want to keep the aircon going.
Good, Doug.
Two. The guy hadn't even got the question out. Two. We are getting to Nuff-Nuff next, Bernard, and this is of interest to me. So just a second. Hard Yakka, by the way, new breed of Aussie legends. Toughness is in their DNA. Born in 1930. Work hard, play hard. Hard Yakka, a history of hard. Nuff-Nuff coming up next for McDonald's and Remott Water. Triple M rocks footy. I love it, Bernard.
Yes, very good. Well, Bill, generally you frequent this segment and you're quickly getting chased down by the man sitting next to you, Damo, Duck, because you've been on fire. And
Careful, he's punchy today.
Yeah, I know, he can't reach me from here. That's why I'm very confident in mentioning that first up. But just been on fire lately, Duck, and I'll mention you in a minute. But just off the top of last week, now, what I need to describe to you is that when we were doing the call at Adelaide Oval here, Port Adelaide versus Adelaide, it was the last call, Chris Dittmar's a big Port Adelaide fan. So what you need a picture is when the ball actually looked like missing, he was calling it, and then as soon as it was going through, took the cans off and basically walked out. So our listeners didn't know what was going on. So I had to take over. Here it is.
Oh, no.
Now a kick coming up. About 49 metres out, Jordan Dawson. 48 metres. Oh, it's kicked out.
It's kicked out. Oh, look at him. They're coming from everywhere. Look at that. Looks like Buddy Franklin's kicked his 1000th goal again. The fans are about to run on. Oh, wow.
Talk about a good call.
Wedged himself into the Nuff-Nuff specials.
I looked around and no one was doing anything.
no,
People
you're
need
enough.
to know. And I've had a few phone calls since too with a few offers.
I'd take them.
Hey, well, that got me thinking. I thought, well, that's a bit of a theme. So I went through the archives, Bill. You like that? Archives. Yeah. And I found where, well, the commentators have been taken over by someone they probably shouldn't. And I was going to start in 2013 when Andrew Walker comes second. This goal came second in goal of the year, and Barry Denner, the People's Caller, is trying to call it as he sees it. And, well, our good friend Spud, well, he wanted it. He wanted it.
The worst.
So Mills kicks scrubby forward and it's off hands to Walker, and he can go right up the corridor. He's taken 2 bounces. No one to kick to at the moment. Streaming back in. Here's Chrissy Yarran, and Walker keeps going. 4-5 bounces. Goes to 50. He called it.
He's trying to say Baz called it. You called it, Spud.
Couldn't help himself, could he?
No, he couldn't. He just chipped in there. And then I think he was getting around himself at the end saying, you called it. You called it. Hey, Isaac Heaney, 2018 Mark of the Year, Sydney v Melbourne. Wayne Swass. Well, he's a great caller too. And he called it beautifully. But Paul Roos, he wanted some time. And, his mind was elsewhere about the negative side of what happened.
Pedersen with a big leap. Nice grab, Cam. He can thump a ball a long way. Off a step, chips the ball towards Hogan. Sits up. Oh, that's Mark of the Year.
And there it is. That sums up the day. A shocking kick from Pedersen. And Isaac Heaney.
Come on, Roosy.
Unbelievable, Mark. He got a second takeoff, Roosy.
Absolute cracker. It was like Pedersen was kicking to the mark. Heaney was said, no problem. Thanks, Cam.
Come on, Roosy. It doesn't matter how it gets there, mate. Just let him call it. It was Mark of the Year. It was huge.
Very defensive, Coach Roosy.
Oh, yeah, very defensive. Named Curvis last weekend as well. Kicked a brilliant goal, but Robbo on the boundary. Now, he's got one job down there, Robbo, and that's to watch the play. And if something exciting happens or it goes inside 50, well, you just stop.
But now Riccardi has gone in. They've looked at vision of that big clash. So they could be
Tigers in
2
attack.
down.
Now Curvis out of the air with the right foot. He's kicked the beauty, the big fella.
Shut up, Robbo.
They did that pretty well, but they actually called the goal about 30 seconds after it happened. It was just lucky it was on radio. But another job down there, Robbo, if you're listening. Well, know the benches.
All right, not far away from this one as the players start to come towards the bench. What are the benches down there, Robbo? Bob Jane teammates?
Haven't got those, mate.
They're walking towards you, Rob.
They are.
There's 8 of them, Robbo.
There's 8 of them, Robbo.
You helped
Just
him out
name
there,
them as they're walking past you, mate. Hey, Bill, well, last week, now moving on from the theme, Bill, last week, your shirt.
Beautiful.
Now, it was very special to you, apparently, and, you got it from a very special place too, didn't we?
This is Polo, the Rigi Didge.
No, it's a broken stick,
Bali
Bill.
version.
I bought
stick.
this in UK, in London. What's Harriet's or whatever?
Harriet's. Where did that come from?
Well, it's a little department store. There is Harriet's,
Maybe
of course.
Harriet's.
We all know Harriet's. Everyone knows that. No one knows the offshoot called Harriet's down the road.
Yeah. And that
Well
horse
done.
had 3 legs as well.
No, it didn't.
That
And
was
I
an
checked
issue.
the legs and I checked the polo
Can you do the
stick.
polo stick?
Yes, it did. It's got everything.
It was broken in half. Hey, Duck, well, we all know your mind can wander, and I'm very happy I'm actually not in the studio at the moment. But, your special comments, you weren't even just doing your game. You're so good that you can just do special comments on another game next door.
Just keeping an eye on that game. A couple of players gone to ground when they should have kept their feet.
for the Blues.
Duck's doing specials on both games.
Yeah, just keep it on this one for us, Duck.
What happened then, Duck? What are you doing?
Well,
He got bored.
Well, that game was over, and that game was a 1-point game in the end. I thought it was the viewers should hear it. The listeners.
What about Joey? Just this game will do, Duck.
The listeners should, not the viewers. The listeners should.
But what you were bringing to the game you were doing, Duck, very good. The Richmond St Kilda game. And, well, you had a great stat on how well the two teams have gone against each other. And listen to Ross whack you for it.
From memory, Two-Man, and Two-Man will join us shortly, but the Saints really like playing Richmond on this ground. And I remember back to 17 where they
But last year where they lost 120.
Yeah,
Thanks, Ross.
Duck, when you say from memory, that means you know exactly what's going on, don't you?
Yeah.
Except for that one.
Except for that one, Bill, yeah.
For that one. But hey, it wasn't your fault, Duck. It wasn't your fault because
never is,
if it's not yours, you got to have someone to blame, and well, anyone can be blamed.
This is why you don't let your 7-year-old Joey mix with your notes. Charlotte's right all over my notes.
You reckon Charlotte changed it
blaming
from
her.
Richmond to St Kilda? She's writing stats on your paper now, Duck.
You're better than that, Duck.
Even he's laughing.
Look at Duck chuckling away.
What did she do to your notes, Duck?
Yeah,
Well,
explain it.
she scribbled on
No,
it.
she
Changed
did.
it.
Got a highlighter out.
Changed. I just couldn't read it properly.
Wasn't your fault. So it's never Jim's fault.
Never
We're in
Jim.
trouble here.
Never.
But it actually never is my fault. Okay, go on, Ben.
Hey, well, Duck, for some reason, you've just stuck your voice. I said
Bernie's
I've got a
getting
few
edgy.
of you. I've got to get these out of the way before I'm in studio
I'm next to him,
next
Bert.
week again. Hey, well, you've just been singing a bit lately, and here's a little reminder of a couple you've ran with.
You're related to.
Turn back time when you work to one living, but a wicked.
And then you went again on the
burnt.
weekend, just gone.
I'm going to wash that green eye out of me.
Wayne?
Well, the boys were talking about.
No,
you
we
the grades
know
on
that.
the
You don't
side.
have to sing it.
So I'm gonna get some of that stuff. You know, remember they used to do that ad?
Head and shoulders.
Yes.
Oh,
No, that's for dandruff.
Dandruff.
Yes, Bern.
Hey, well, and you went down the Wiggles path, hot potato. Forgot that one.
Well, the Saints, that's a classic case of hot potato, hot potato.
Yeah, but that was just the lead-in because, Jim, something slipped through the cracks.
Yes.
And I'm quite glad I'm not in the studio again because
But we are,
Jim,
Bern, and he's getting really edgy.
No, I'm moving on now. But that was just the lead-in to Jim. You didn't tell me about this one. This is a concern, Jim.
Right. I eat grass and a moo all day. I'm a cow moo. It's my favourite Wiggles song.
That's a Wiggles song.
That's my favourite Wiggles song.
What is going on? You don't have to sing it. You can just tell us what it
I
is.
eat grass and a moo all day. I'm a cow moo. And then the second bit is I eat green grass and a moo all day. I'm a cow moo. But I'm telling you, it's my favourite Wiggles number.
I'm a cow moo.
Sound like you had a mouthful of grass.
That's exactly it.
Anyway, let's get to Nuff of the week.
Nuff of the week.
Now, I was driving in the car last Sunday and a lot of things were coming up on radio, but this one's over in Perth. Now, I just happened to be heading to Bunnings to get an extension cord, and I heard this from Xavier Ellis.
Will they be able to stand up to the pressure and lift and carry the side like we've seen Brayshaw Fife Money do 1,000 times? Well, I'm not so sore.
Show sore. Play it again, Hose. Show
I'm
sore.
not so sore.
I like that.
And by the way, the fact Mundy and those guys he can throw in there. Brayshaw's pretty new, 1,000 times. He's only played about 30 games.
That's it. That's a fair call. Look at him dissecting the
Dissecting enough.
What about the joke when you're saying about Nath Brown's forehead and Duck come up with that great gag about
the projector?
the kids, he was going to put the projector on Nath's forehead, but once the kids showed,
And he said, I've heard of a forehead. What about a fifth head?
But Big X, he was a dead heat because Jay-Z, I heard this, I had to pull the car over. It wasn't good. He first attempt, he butchers one word, and the second attempt, well, he butchers both and then just decides to abandon ship. Listen.
Well, I mean, he would be a man in demand. Man in demand.
He's trying to say man in demand. And this is, play it again, Hose.
Well, I mean, he would be a man in demand. Man in demand.
And then he just moved on. He's got Bluey's problem. Oh, you can catch that. Don't worry about that. But that's enough for the week.
I
boys.
like it.
Oh, well done.
Very nicely done,
That's a little
Bernard,
bit
and I
of,
blame Bill.
Has a little bit of Elmer Fudd about him sometimes, Jay-Z, doesn't he?
Yeah. What, how he looks?
Trying to work out what that means.
No, with the way he speaks.
Rabbits.
Yeah.
I blame Bill.
How do you blame?
Well, because
poor old
everyone
fat?
who comes to this station to broadcast football can speak until they hear you. And
You
then
look
it
a bit
gets
like
in
Elmer
their
Fudd.
own head, and then suddenly they forget how to speak.
Well, I get confused.
Do you?
I was confused yesterday with old Nobes. He was,
Ross Noble.
Yes.
You need to see the video of Bill trying to work out left and right on his headphones on our Instagram, Triple M Rush Hour.
It's unbelievable.
Funny.
What about Spud, though, before we finish, Damo?
Yeah.
The bigger the game and the more important the moment, the more he would speak over you as a commentator. The bearded Malcho, when he snapped that goal in 2012 to win the Swans a premiership, Spud was screaming that loud. You couldn't hear anything anyone else
Was he in the famous Tom Boyd's kick the goal one as well? Was he screaming then as well, I think, in the
Could
background?
easily have been. He just...
You'd have a story or a joke, and he'd tell them the punchline.
On the top of it, it'd be the wrong punchline. Come on, Spud. Come on.
But Roosie took the cake there. One of the great marks of all time, and he's right about how the kick came in.
Let it go, trying to go back to it to get around to it.
Stop trying to kick 7 goals to win a grand final.
Poor kick.
Just sums the game up, you reckon? Mind you, my favourite Roosie story is told by Bernard. In his last game, they got beaten at the Cattery by 120 points. The boys got in, dragging their asses in, and the coach had actually exited. Nowhere to be seen.
Last thing the boys, or it wasn't the boys because we weren't in there yet, I think it was a staff member or maybe a drink steward, said, I've never been beaten by 100 points. And that was the last thing that came out of his mouth. Just went back up the highway to Melbourne.
I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure that you get around the women's final firstly, which will be amazing, and then the Kangaroos Sydney, which I hope's amazing, Duck. Because my goodness, what's being served up there at the minute's a great concern.
Let's really hope.
Yes.
Who wins the AFLW Grand Final?
Oh, look, I'm hoping Melbourne because Adelaide have won a couple, so it'd be nice for Daisy and Melbourne to win one, I reckon.
And what will the crowd be, Damo?
Hard to tell, Bill. Absolutely no way of knowing from this far away.
They had 50-something at Adelaide Oval a few years ago, Bill.
That's what you could have gone.
53,000
there for the last grand final.
Well, what do you think?
Thank you, Roosie.
Well, what do you think?
Oh, Roosie, I think there'd be 40,000 there.
28 degrees.
We're about to find out.
Adelaide will win.
day.
And Adelaide will win.
All right. Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you, boys.
I love it. Thank you to Will and Hose who have done a magnificent job. This has been, for McDonald's and Ream Hot Water, the Triple M Saturday Rub.
Now you can stream every AFL match live with Triple M Footy.
That's as good as you get.
Just download the Listener app and select Triple M.